everyone. How are you tonight? There, shut me off before I started talking. Hey, Autistic Show. Yes, I did. I saw it while I was streaming, and I said thank you for it last night. But thank you again. Thank you. It's very kind of you. Thank you so much. That's definitely going to help with January. Oh man. So, hey, Linda Reese. Hey, Autistic Show. Hi, Steffi. Hey, Winter X Rose. Notice me sent by Aaron. Beautiful me, beautiful you, beautiful we. Hey, what's up? LER, April. Hey, Nana Hawk. Hey, DC. Hey, big local interdimensional cephalopod. Your tentacles are quivered. That sounds gross. Well, hey, Elizabeth. All right, so I know that parts of this community have been all abuzz lately over this, I don't know, very exaggerated, even like I would even say like imagined series of events or introduction to YouTubers, if you will, from this one other YouTube channel. Now, I think it's only fair. See, transparency is a big thing with me, okay, as it is with most people. So I think it's only fair that this creator be transparent about her interests in such a story or such a person or those involved, rather, because I don't know. I think that people, if they're going to take this creator's word or their opinion or whatever as something to be depended on or valued or believed, well, then they should know exactly where this person's coming from, like why this person's even speaking on these people or whatever. Everything's over. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, that means. Okay. I don't think it means anything bad because there's an LOL after it. But anyway, so I think it's only fair that people know that this person is feeling scorned from those involved, especially Steve McRae. And it's interesting that this person, just call it Goblin, because she likes to be known as Goblin. And I don't know, I kind of find it fitting. So this Goblin, okay, is seeming to attack, or not attack, but be consumed and talk all kinds of shit about the people who are friends with Steve or who have come to Steve's defense. Now, I don't care how you feel about Steve. This has nothing to fucking do with Steve. I just want it to be clear and to be known why people are saying the things that they're saying over on YouTube's here. And since she didn't feel the need or the responsibility to inform people of her own personal vested interest and her own bias, well, I think it's only fair that someone do. Well, it might as well be me. So, let's see. Okay. Goblin is Cheddar. I think we all know that. And I think the unicorn, the person who's known as Unicorn, to my understanding, is her sidekick there, Manya. So when I say Goblin and Unicorn, that's who I'm referring to. See, way back when, they were all friends, okay? Goblin, the Unicorn, and Steve. And when Steve and Kyle had their falling out on the Non Sequitur Show channel, I think maybe throughout that process, Steve and Cheshire they were really good friends. And during that time, Steve was attacked a lot online, mostly because of Uni Rock and Katie Paulson there, or Katie Joy. And as friends often do for one another, especially online, when that happens, people kind of just, speak out or speak on behalf of the person they're friends with. And that's much of what happened with Chesh and Steve. His friends do. Well, when Steve got done battling it out in court with his ex-partner Kyle there, because Kyle, basically tried to steal the channel from him, definitely stole like all the income, all the AdSense, everything that the channel made. Didn't Steve a dime. We're talking like $60,000 from what I understand. So Steve had to take Kyle to court, and there was a process and to fight just to get control of the channel, because it was Kyle who broke the agreement. It was Kyle who was at fault here, Well, the courts agreed and ordered that Kyle hand over the channel to Steve, which he did, because Steve now has control of it. So when he got the channel back and he started streaming again, it wasn't for long. Like, I want to say he got the channel back in like December maybe of 2021, and this all played out like just a few months later, like February, I think. Well, Cheshire was under this impression, for whatever reason, that she would have 50% ownership of the channel, 50% decision making, and 50% profits. Well, Steve willingly came out and admitted, yeah, sure, I agreed to this. I agreed to you. I'm more than happy to split the profits with you. But he said, but when it comes to channel ownership, it's my channel. I just fought to get it back. I'm not going to just give it over. So no, when ultimate decision process, the final decision on things, it's going to rest with me. I guess she felt entitled to just basically him giving her the channel, because she stood up for him for the past few years and made some thumbnails and shit and did some graphic art thingies or whatever. And no one's saying that she doesn't deserve to, or she didn't deserve to be compensated for that, sure, but not to the tune of like fucking $200,000 or $50,000, depending on what figure you want to go with there. Both were suggested by her. So yeah, and Steve was more than happy to pay her something, just not $50,000. But we're going to listen to a couple of streams here, or a couple of videos. One video, one stream. We're going to start off with a video from. It's on Steve McCrae's channel, but the video was made by Red's Rhetoric. And it's called The Final Say Veto Power Activated, because apparently it was decided upon that Reds would have veto decision-making abilities or something. I'll let him explain it. He'll explain it much better than me. And because I do believe in transparency, I do think it's important to point out here that Red's Rhetoric has been friends with Steve for years, going back long before this. Okay, he's been very much involved in all kinds of things with the Non Sequitur Show channel. Throughout, I want to say like around COVID time, maybe, or just after, Reds started dating Cheshire. They dated for a brief while, I think maybe. I want to say like well under a year, anyways, I believe. I could be wrong, but it's not something I really care to verify. But it wasn't a long, lengthy relationship, that much I know. And they broke up, in which before, during, and after the relationship, Reds was very much a part of the channel. It was agreed upon that he would have veto decision-making powers or whatever. So when it came time for this falling out over the channel, naturally, Red's Rhetoric is going to have something to say on the matter, okay? But I can understand how some people may feel kind of different about it, since they used to date briefly, but nothing ended badly between them. Like, they just weren't on the same pathway to the same goals in life or whatever. Like, there wasn't any like big, huge fallout. No one cheated on anyone, no one hurt anyone like that. You know what I mean? So there's no reason why Steve couldn't still have his friend be a part of his fucking channel, Anyway. So here's the video.
Dumpster, and of course, oh great, more fucking drama. So Cheshire and Steve McCrae are currently engaged in a game of gas match and dumpster, and of course it blew up. Cheshire is of the opinion that she was screwed out of money for her services, along with being screwed out of a certain position on a particular project you may have heard of, the Non Sequitur Show. Steve McCrae, on the other hand, maintains that her complaints are a crock of shit best left for the Tooth Fairy, since made-up issues can easily be solved by made-up entities. So we're off to a fabulous start already. So what is my position in all of this? Well, quite simply, Steve McCrae is in the right, and you all are damn right that I have his back. I will not be gaslit into lying to both myself and all of you fine people watching this video right now. So we will be addressing some of Cheshire's points that are floating around, but first we need to establish some facts. From day one, Steve McCrae owned the Non Sequitur Show YouTube channel, the very same channel that was stolen from him by Kyle Curtis, and he fought like hell to rightfully get his fucking show back. During this time, though, I made Steve promise to never give control or ownership of the channel to somebody else. If Steve ever went down that path again, I would have cut ties with him and the show immediately. Why? Well, that shit was reckless in the past, and I wasn't going to tolerate it again. And
I don't know. I always thought that there was a word. I didn't think that that talking point mattered so much. At least, definitely not from Cheshire's end. But I think it's safe to say, though, that Red's rhetoric felt very strongly about this, and had Steve even given the impression that that's what he was about to do or he was open to doing, Reds would have clearly had something to say about it at that time. The fact that Reds didn't and nothing came about from it tells me that Steve probably didn't have that intention. So,
of course, Cheshire was well aware that this was my firm position regarding the channel's ownership. She was also aware that Steve agreed with me that surrendering control was a dipshit move in the first place, and he would never do that again in the future. Again, she was aware of all of this. Any claim to the contrary is a fucking lie. So with that, yes, the current drama revolves around non-sec, but specifically, it's in regards to Cheshire's position on the show and the compensation offered and received. So with that, let's answer some nonsense. Number one, Cheshire did so much work for the Non Sequitur Show during the legal battle. She promoted non-sec. She fought for you, Steve, and she deserves compensation for her PR work before you got your access back. Right. Here's the thing. No, she doesn't. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, brothers and sisters, I too fought for Steve and told Kyle to eat a dick on multiple occasions, and I wasn't alone. The whole community came together and gave a very firm fuck you to Kyle for pulling the shit that he pulled, and Cheshire was part of that unified front. Both I and Steve were under the impression that Cheshire was of the same mindset as the rest of you fine people who haven't sent us a bill in the mail. So, the rest of you, essentially. That mindset being, we are fighting against Kyle on principle because it is the right thing to do. However, when it comes to Cheshire, I guess we were fucking wrong on that, because apparently she equates her troll bashing and stating the fucking obvious on Twitter sometimes as actual PR work and not as something one does in their free time when they see some obvious.
okay, wait a second. I'm pausing this for a second because I'm not paying attention to it because I'm trying to do something here real quick. So let me do what I'm doing here real quick. I'm almost there. Where's that? Okay, there we go. That's what I want. All right. So I'm saving the changes now. So you're going to see in the chat things, a couple of settings, or a setting has changed rather. Only subscribers who have been subscribed for 10 minutes or longer can comment because evidently we have some trolls in here. So, and I apologize for any of those who for those who genuinely want to be here and listen and everything, and who aren't subscribed. I completely understand if you subscribe for the 10 minutes and then no longer subscribe after the stream. I get it, whatever. But I don't know. Maybe people won't want to hang around that long. Oh, of course, money is here. Awesome. See, here's the thing. It's weird how when people talk about things that happened here or talk about Steve with anything, certain people have to show up in the live stream chat and try to derail shit and just fuck shit up. No one's really bothering or caring to do that to their streams though when they talk about shit or whatever. I mean, everyone needs an outlet. Go ahead, talk about whatever you want on your channel. But if you're so insecure with your position that you feel you need to go to other channels to try to derail shit, you might want to ask yourself why that is. That's all. I mean, because like after all this time looking back on this shit and listening to a certain stream and everything, holy shit, I cannot believe how freaking nice and understanding I was regarding certain people involved, because y'all just fucking blew shit right up. And you honestly felt entitled to another man's fucking YouTube channel. Like, that's crazy. That really is crazy. Unbelievable. But regardless.
Bullshit on the internet. And since it's PR work, it of course has a price. And to the surprise of everybody, we should be on the hook for that? Yeah, what a twist.
See, and I'm going to say the same thing that I've been saying all along, which many people have said all along. If this is how you feel, if you felt that you should be compensated for your efforts, then you make that known. You don't put forth the effort without some sort of profit or payment, rather. Short of that payment, you just don't put forth the effort. If you are putting forth the effort without even having spoken on this issue, saying, hey, I'm going to do these things for you on Twitter. I'm going to go and I'm going to defend you on Twitter. I'm going to make tweets on your behalf. I expect to get paid X amount for each tweet. If you didn't do that, then how can you expect anyone else to know that you are deserving of this pay per tweet? And more importantly, if you feel so strongly that you're owed this compensation, then you get a fucking contract. I mean, that's not, and this, one of the main things or whatever I hear, like why the contract didn't exist. Well, because they were friends. If they were friends, then no one would be looking to get paid for doing friend shit. Like you're going to hear Reg say, although he says that friends don't get paid for doing friend shit. That's right. They don't. But if you're friends and you do friend shit, then you don't need a contract because you're not doing the friend shit for payment. So
that's kind of fucked up, especially when you consider the total lack of any contract, communication of expectations, and the fact that she went ahead despite these two things in the first place. There was no contract. There was no deal. There was no promise in regards to your PR work, in quotes, Chesh. That's the first reason Steve was absolutely right when he said that your PR work was worth $0 and you would be paid as much for it. Steve never agreed to pay whatever figure you're pulling out of your ass. And that is the case whether you're serious with that bullshit or just making a point.
I never really understood that argument either about PR work, because like from the time I came about when I first met Steve and to even, I don't know, well, we'll say to when this shit transpired here in the beginning of 2022. So from like 2020 beginning of to 2022 beginning of, the attacks against Steve, from what I've seen, in my opinion, increased. The things said about Steve and to Steve increased with their severity and their vitriol. So if during that time Cheshire was doing PR work on behalf of Steve, well, then she fucking sucks at it. And I'm sorry, if you're having a PR issue like Steve was having, then if you're going to employ someone to change that issue or improve that issue, then you're going to want to hire someone who knows what they're doing in that field or has any experience, any knowledge, expertise, whatever. The most basic, the most fundamental knowledge of shit. Not someone who rarely associates with anyone in real life outside of their home. And I don't mean that as a shot. I don't. We all can live any way we want. We all have every right to make that decision. But if I'm going to hire someone for public relations on my behalf, it's going to be someone who can go out and relate with the public. You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. So why she would think that she would be the ideal person, or just even like the less than ideal person, to be entrusted with someone's image publicly is crazy. So
whatever the fuck that means. But for the second reason Steve is right in regards to your PR bullshit, let's start with my contributions to Non Sequitur. I provided damn good content for the show. I was in debates, which generated a fuck ton of traffic and engagement. I worked with Steve and Kyle to secure amazing guests. They even put my logo on a t-shirt and sold it as official merch. And then after Kyle committed his criminal act against Steve, it was my channel that broke the news. As time went on, I stayed on top of this shit through every filing, providing updates and debunking pro-Kyle bullshit along the way, right alongside you. I had multiple streams with OPT lawyer reading the dockets submitted so an actual lawyer who is worth a damn could decipher the legal jargon. I did all of this and more over a period of 3 years. And for my contributions, I am owed the same amount you are owed, Chesh. $0. But why? Why do I say that we are owed $0, Chesh? I mean, after all, we did the work. Because Steve McCrae is my friend, and he was yours too. And that is reason number 2. We don't pay friends to do friend shit. If we had known that you would eventually pull this kind of nonsense, I'm sure we would have told you to fuck off, since we are of the strong opinion that friendship is not a subscription-based service. Now, you guys may want to sit down for this one, because I'm about to blow your fucking mind. Because how much is she asking for? How much does she want for all the PR work that she did for NonSec? $50,000. I shit you not. But wait, there's more. She also wanted an additional $15,000 for Steve supposedly breaking a gentleman's agreement to not talk about the negotiations for 48 hours. I find this hilarious for many reasons. So I'm going to dismiss that $15,000 thing as a joke and pretend that it was never brought up. But even then, Chesh, you expect us to believe that because you have the ability to trace on a tablet without a contract and make fuck you Kyle tweets every now and then, that you are entitled to the value of a BMW 4 Series? Fuck you. Like, holy shit. So to recap, Steve never agreed to pay you anything for your PR work. And secondly, you don't pull this kind of shit on a friend. So on principle, eat a dick. But with that, we move on to the next issue. What was actually discussed? And was the deal Chesh ended up with a fair deal? So let's start with Caffeine Corner. Cheshire agreed to do Caffeine Corner under a fixed percentage. And
now, for those who don't know, because I'm not even sure I know all the specifics here. I want to say Caffeine Corner was like a series or a show or something on the channel, the Non Sequitur show channel. I think that because Cheshire did contribute content to the channel, absolutely, and did so in probably a few different ways. And each time, I want to say she was compensated for it. I mean, there had to have been some sort of agreement because she kept doing it. And like even still, Steve offered her royalties for this at the end there, and that wasn't good enough.
For her time on the show, she was indeed paid out in full. We have receipts for that just in case.
Right.
This was done on a per episode basis, and since Cheshire was part of the show for over 60 fucking episodes, one can safely assume that she was happy with the compensation she was receiving. And during my many conversations with her, she never said she was unhappy with her time on Caffeine Corner. If anything, she would bend over backwards to not miss it. And she confirmed with me, multiple times in fact, that she was in fact getting paid for it. The reason why I bring this up is simple. If she considers her time on Caffeine Corner as PR work, it is important to note that she agreed with the deal that she was given. Compensation was actually discussed for Caffeine Corner, and she did receive it. If she had any issues with the amount that she was getting paid, she could have bounced out of the show and out of Steve's life at any time, but she didn't. She stayed. So what does that tell you? Based on her actions alone, she agreed that it was a fair deal. And based on my conversations with her, she also agreed it was a fair deal. So For Caffeine Corner, no issue, job done. In regards to the Non Sequitur show, this is where shit gets good. Upon Kyle returning the channel to Steve, because, Chesh would be co-host, entitled to 50% of the profit. I would mostly be in the background, and I would take no cut from the profit. However, I would maintain my influence and aid in the decision-making process whenever I felt it was needed. This was perfectly fine with Chesh, and it was understood by all parties that the details would be hammered out upon the channel's return. But right at the start of this, she did have some guarantees, most notably regarding her 50% cut. If Cheshire wanted something more, like actual fucking ownership, and we'll get back to that in a moment, she could have told Steve before doing any work on Nonsec. The fact that she went ahead and did a few episodes without Steve signing on the dotted line is on her. But let's be fair here. I think Steve fucked up here as well, because I do not think it was a good idea to start the show back up without signatures being collected and filed. At the very least, Steve should have not have allowed Chesh to appear on Nonsec until negotiations were completed. But I'm sure Steve denying Chesh's appearance would have caused a different shit show entirely, so But I'm getting a little ahead here, so back on topic. Despite no official contract being made, Cheshire was never denied her 50% cut. So while a little reckless on her part, she knew Steve would pay her because she knows that Steve is not a dishonest piece of shit. Imagine that. But at the end of the day, he was willing to work with her and make that contract a reality. In fact, a good motherfucker named Chris took the initiative and wrote up a draft contract that practically gave Cheshire everything she could ask for and more. In fact, it's so worth going down the list, so let's do that.
Get to that, back to that in a second. Tazar, no, not at all. You want to come up and stream? I'll drop the link if you want to join me. Okay, I'm not at all being a coward here. I just don't want to deal with your bullshit. So if you want to come up and say something to me or have a discussion with me, I am here, ready, willing, and able. What say you? I'm going to go back to this while you think about it.
Number 1, Cheshire would be entitled to 50% of the profits from the Non Sequitur show. This would formally start on Cheshire's first appearance as a co-host. Number 2, Cheshire would keep her position as a co-host for a guaranteed 12 months. Only she can terminate her relationship with the Non Sequitur show before the 12 months is up. I'm assuming as long as she doesn't start promoting the Westboro Baptist Church or some crazy shit like that. Number 3, if the relationship between Cheshire and the show is terminated, she can still get her half of the residuals for a period of time equivalent to her time as co-host. So if she was on Non-Sec for a year, she would get residuals from the shows that she was on for a year after that. And given what we said about her guaranteed position for 12 months, assuming she doesn't leave on her own, she would be starting with guaranteed payments for 2 years at least. Number 4, Steve agrees to pay Cheshire the residuals for shows prior to her formally being involved in the Non Sequitur show once these residuals covered the $5,000.
Winter Rose, you want to come up too? You're more than welcome to. And yeah, you bet your ass I'm entitled. It's my fucking channel. If I'm not entitled, then who the fuck would be? I mean, if there's no place I could be entitled, it's fucking here. I mean, come on. That's just fucking stupid. Anyway, but you're more than welcome to come up too. But
$1,000 legal fees. This was later reduced in Cheshire's favor to only $2,500. Damn. Number 5, Cheshire is free to do other projects, whether that's to work on her own channel or work with other shows. All that is required is that she show up and not engage in any activity that could fuck over Non-Sec. Number 6, Cheshire gets to see the financials, point blank. And number 7, she can walk away at any time and it will not impact her residuals. Well, holy shit, that was a bitchin' deal. Especially the part where she couldn't get dropped by Steve for a whole year and could look forward to residuals from episodes that she had fuck all to do with. Yet, even with all of this and the fact that she had the opportunity to negotiate for even more shit in her favor, she rejected everything outright. Well, fine, I guess. But that doesn't mean I have to ignore the fact that this was a sweet offer, and I won't. At this point, it's an established fact that
Oh, well, the old NSS people will see this eventually. Do you think no one can place a comment with receipts? Whatever. I'm gonna play the mod call next. The live stream. There not well, it wasn't a live stream, but it was recorded. The mod call that with the mediator and everything regarding the non sequitur. I'm gonna play that next. So I mean, that's the people you're talking about that were involved in this, no? So yeah. Because again, and that's not revisionist history. That's their own words that I'll be playing. And I think it's only fair that Cheshire be transparent with everyone if she's going to speak on things like this. I mean, if she expects anyone to take her word or to believe her version on things, they should know exactly where she's coming from, what's driving her, what's motivating her to do this. Because I think that matters. And I mean, if she's doing it all for all the right reasons, then I'm wasting my time, no? What do you care?
Cheshire got a damn good deal with this, considering that between the two of them, Cheshire would be the only one making money for a number of months. Steve, on the other hand, would be looking forward to the day that he can say, well, at least I broke even. But Steve wasn't going to complain. That's what it means to be an owner sometimes. And speaking of which, this leads us to the next issue. She wanted to be considered an owner in some way. After looking over the facts, I can't figure out in what sense Cheshire wanted to be an owner. Are we talking by title only, or are we talking about making that shit legal in some way? Since I don't know the exact answer to that, I'm just going to tackle the why. In my opinion, Cheshire wanted that status so Steve could not override her when it came to key decisions for the channel, because at the end of the day, the channel is Steve's, and Steve will do with the channel whatever he damn well fucking pleases. She also wanted to strip Steve of any authority to straight up dump her off the show at any time, since it would be her channel too. Basically, she wanted Non-Sec to be just as much her property as it.
Thank you so much for the super sticker, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Was Steve's. And let me tell you something. That was never going to fucking happen. Not only because it was unneeded to have a successful deal between the two of them, but because she did not fucking deserve it. The issue is this. The only people to make any money from Non-Sec thus far is Kyle and Cheshire. Steve McCray, on the other hand, is $5,000 in the hole for this shit, and Cheshire never offered to help out with that as a supposed owner. How in the fuck can she claim to be an owner, and how can she make that demand, while at the same time not taking on any of the risk that comes with being a fucking owner? And all while knowing damn well the financial hit Steve was taking in real time. Her actions speak louder than any tweet that she could ever make. She was more than happy to have Steve handle all the shit that comes with being an owner, especially when it came to breaking out the fucking checkbook, while she sat on her ass saying good luck with that. You know, it's actually funny that I mentioned BMW previously because she is just like their drivers. Everybody wants a BMW until it's time to do BMW shit. But not only did she not adopt any risk for her pseudo ownership of the channel, she then tried to get Steve to pay her out to the tune of $50,000. Look, in terms of buying into the business, Chesh, you're going backwards there. Point blank, fuck that. I don't give a shit how she tries to justify that absurd figure. I did more for the success of the Non Sequitur show, and I would never value my input as being anywhere close to 50 fucking grand. This shows me with little doubt she did not enter negotiations in good faith, because nobody in their right mind would think that price gouging is a good way to strike a deal with somebody, and nobody in the right mind would demand such a figure from a guy that they know for a fact doesn't have that money in the first place. Steve hasn't won the lottery. Steve wasn't the one to find Forrest Finn's treasure in the goddamn Rockies, so how in the fuck was this a good faith request? Yeah, demand the impossible, reject the reasonable, and then cry victim after getting paid what you're actually owed and told to fuck off. Chesh, while I do agree that you were given piss poor advice, and I'm sorry about that, this shit is still on you. You have nobody to blame but yourself for this. In closing, I am 100% on Steve's side here, and I think I've explained exactly why very clearly. Until the very end.
Okay, so that was Red's Rhetoric's take on things, but by all means, listen to the following stream here or video I'm going to play. It's a stream, but it's a stream of a video. Anyway, whatever. Listen to the following here, and you decide for yourself, because you get to hear them themselves argue about this. Okay. So the stream I'm going to play next is actually from my channel, because I already covered the stream about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, actually. Okay. So they were in moderation talks, though there was no contract, there's no legal obligation. A friend of theirs who had worked as a mediator or whatever offered to listen in on a phone call and to mediate for the two of them. And that's what happened. This is what this was. This was not an authentic or whatever official mediation, but it was like their own personal version of one, I guess you could say. So this is what we're going to be listening into. And while this mod call happened, it was recorded, and then somebody released it. I don't even remember who it was that released it. I want to say the rumor was that it was Manya, but I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't want to. So don't take that as fact. I'm saying I don't know right now. But at the time, I then did a live stream where myself and Tina joined me, and we commentated on it. That's what we did, and that's what I'm going to be playing. I'm not going to be playing the whole thing. I'm going to just start to when after they'd already been up there talking for a few moments, okay? Because like it doesn't really pick up. You don't really learn much about it until like around the halfway mark. So
a decision on what I'm doing, what you're doing, what I'm wearing.
I'm going to have to slow that down. That's right. I sped it up. Let me see. So we do that.
On the next show. The problem with this terminology is that if you have 100% say on anything that happens, it means that you can fire me in an instant. This is not fair. And this is never what I had agreed to, nor had I understood. I was respectful to you, and I was very much respectful that, hey, listen, if you had something that you wanted to do and there was a disagreement, I was likely to defer to you, because I still viewed this as a respectable thing, that if I had a disagreement, you would do the same towards me. Please do not mistake me being respectful towards you as a friend, and please do not misunderstand me being respectful in that I did not want to cause additional confusion during your lawsuits and during the PR work I was helping you do and doing for you, in that you were in fact the rightful owner of the channel comparatively to Kyle.
Okay.
That's my quick response.
Yeah, I was going to just really quickly say it's very clear that there's a genuine misunderstanding.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm quite aware of that. And again, maybe I have the same feelings towards that. Don't mistake, my friendship to say that I would ever give up something that I worked so hard to get back, because it was never on the table. That is something that I've maintained from day one, that I was never going to give up. I was never going to give up any of that from day one. And I do believe she was fully aware of that. However, like I said, when I said for the final decision making, only one person can make a decision, a final decision. Only one has that ability, period, in any kind of thing. When I say that Reds or both have some veto power, it means they have input. But Reds knows, and if you ask Reds, that when it comes to the absolute final decision, that was going to be mine. Reds is well aware of that, even with his veto power. So bringing that up doesn't seem to make any sense to me, because I've always maintained, even with Reds, that I have the final say.
Steve, I have an audio recording of you saying that in a 50-50 agreement, no person has any power over the other one, and it is equal, and you bring in third arbitration.
In some cases like that wasn't what we decided on from the initial thing. When I was talking about that, I said,
I'm going to skip over the commentation for me and Tina, because that's not what my stream here now tonight is about.
I brought it up. I said there are 50-50 partnerships where it is completely across.
Okay, so this check swipes it. Okay, effects on been around
here.
Responsibilities and day-to-day, some people.
Okay. Why genuinely don't True.
And according to me, we have different understandings of what and there was an agreement of 50-50, and that agreement was not 50-50. According to him and according to me, we have different understandings of what the agreement was in the first place. So the only way to rectify that, and as far as I'm concerned, is to have an understanding of picking one of three things, which I had already described, as well as decide the best way to move forward. Quite frankly, with the way this has been handled, I do not trust Steve as a partner at this point with the number of clips that I have pulled with timestamps from the number of times I was referred to as a 50-50 partner, having the same deal and conditions as Kyle, not even including screenshots of conversations. I did math about with the amount of work that I have been doing at an average to low of the positions that Steve on recording said that I was doing comes out to an exorbitant amount of money after this amount of time.
Tazar, just tell me where you want me to send the link, and I'll send you the link. Oh, wrong one. What am I doing? Did I hit the right one? I did, right? I don't know.
Time that has gone by. And at this point, I do not feel comfortable with him having 100% moving forward. He's already said that he's not willing to negotiate on that. He's not willing to work with me on that. That's okay. That's his prerogative. As I said, I never questioned whether or not he would have ownership of the channel itself, because there can only be one owner of the channel. So before we move forward, I think that if we are going to move forward in any kind of business arrangement, we need to decide what I need to be compensated up to this point. I think that's the only fair way to move forward on at least equal footing, because as of right now, this is not equal footing.
The agreement is that she gets compensated for the work she has done on the show, which is the revenue that we brought in for the show. That's all that's going to be, half of that, which is the revenue from the show. That's the only thing she's entitled to, and that's the only thing she will get.
So for last 2 years, you don't think she has done any
We
work?
we have both done, but she's done it on her own channel, which is irrelevant. Work done on the channel is means
Okay.
literally
Chris-
she's live on this channel. That is not.
You know how? Okay, how many
Manya,
subscribers have you
Manya,
gained and how
Manya,
many subscribers have you gained?
Manya, it's
Okay, I'll be quiet. Sorry,
it's
my bad.
completely absurd. That's not how business is done.
Oh yeah.
Chris, may I please?
Okay, apparently this was misconstrued or whatever. So let me
Oh.
clarify.
Sorry. I slowed it down so we didn't have to listen to her sped up. And here's the thing, guys. I think it's important that if Cheshire is going to go down doing all the live stream about everyone that Steve is associating with, well, then you know what? She is still very clearly taking this issue between her and Steve and keeping it very much alive and keeping it going. That's what's been going on. So I think it's just very important to inform people what it is she's trying to do and what it is they're being roped into before they get roped into things. Now, I don't care what your take is on anything that went down between the two of them. That's not my point here. I'm not going to argue this. I don't care. I mean, I do believe that Steve was right, sure, but I don't care really. It's not important to me what anyone else believes as far as this goes. I could not care less. My whole point is that I think it's only right that everyone who Cheshire is spewing her bullshit up to know where it is this is stemming from, know where it is her take is stemming from, where her influence has been. That's all. So right or wrong, whether you side with Steve over this channel, you side with Cheshire over the channel, I don't give a shit. I'm not even here to argue that. My whole point is that Cheshire is still very much involved in this argument herself. So much so that it is dictating what it is she's doing on YouTube today in present day. That's my point. And I think I don't know. I just think it would have been the responsible thing, I think, for her to do, the mature thing, the right thing for her to just say, just for transparency, just so people know. Steve and I used to be, good friends. And we used to collaborate a lot on YouTube, and then we had a falling out. I just think everyone should be aware of this, since I'm out here now talking all kinds of shit about Steve, but no, she didn't do that. But I mean, hey, she's about preparing and, getting all the facts and getting all the information and everything, right? She's just not all about, doling it out, maybe. I don't know. Whatever.
When I say verify the document, I
Oh, that's
mean
right. It's beating
that
up.
Steve pays me for the work I do under the agreement that I thought we were moving forward, and then we go forward with either he decides to take me on as a contractor with keeps his 100% veto power. I get a proper job description, and I stick to that proper job description at a fixed rate to be increased as there are different jobs or things that are added responsibilities, of course.
Yeah. Is it something where we could set up where
and it could be mis. I mean,
there's a 50-50 profit sharing arrangement? Now, I do know one thing that you did say, Chester, was a concern. That was a little bit of a flag for me as well, which was technically Steve could fire you at any time. What if we were to put an agreement in place where there was fixed periods where that couldn't happen?
I would, depending on how that was worded, I might be okay with that. It would have to not exclusive, obviously, because as of almost 2 years, I've been working almost exclusively towards non-sec and towards this agreement that I thought falsely that I was under, as well as, which was only restrictive. I don't mean to say that Steve wasn't allowing me to go work other places, by the way. I want to make that very clear. He wasn't saying that I can't go work other places, but the expected amount of work I was doing was that I would be unable to work other places.
Okay.
Is that reasonable? Okay. The only other concern that I have is Steve retaining 50-50 as well as.
Where is she working now then? I mean, I mean, to listen to this and everything, I mean, I don't know, maybe she is, maybe I'm wrong here. I don't know. Maybe she is like this someone who's very knowledgeable, who's very educated, who knows what they're doing in terms of like PR or streaming and like influencer stuff online. I don't know. Does she have much experience or like where's she working now? Like, I'm curious. Why is it that this was such an employable part of her, like something that was just reasonably going to earn her this kind of money? Where would, if that's the case, then has it done that so far? I mean, since then, I don't know.
Sorry, not 50-50. Steve retaining 100% power over decisions over the show means that if I were to take an agreement that had anything to do with compensation or any even portion of the show, with his 100%, he would be able to make a change on that however he so desired. So we'd have to write in something about that to make that function.
Yeah.
Lastly, even operating under what Steve has said so far, assuming the most charitable thing that I can, if there was a misunderstanding about 50-50 arrangement for money, because what I understood that it was 50-50 of channel total, meaning total amount of money that would include all AdSense, all Teespring, all Patreon, et cetera, as a whole. So that would include ad revenue. And we would have a 50-50 agreement on what happened with ad revenue money that would be considered residual from the time beforehand, because as far as I was concerned, this was a 50-50 split. I have a concern that under operating the way Steve has it set up, he is vetoing my say in where those profits go, even while I'm agreeing with him where I believe that the profits should go.
Chris, may I interject? Because if that was the case, then she would have to incur half of the expenses, which means that all the money going into it would be going in to pay off the $5,000, over $5,000 I spent on that channel, which she hasn't put in a dime for. So I don't understand anything that she's saying, because it's not anything that we discussed. When if she was a quote 50-50 on the channel itself, I paid $5,000 for the channel, which means I had invested in the channel. She has not put a dime in the channel. So how does that work out? Because all the money coming in from the channel should be putting off that debt if it was that kind of arrangement. That's debt. That's debt. Well,
Okay,
gosh,
so-
it's not debt because
It's
but it's expensive. Right.
So if we were to say, okay, so there's this amount, we'll call it $5,000 as a round number. So the amount, so there's the dispute over that. This should actually be really simple to solve. Okay, so we've got this residual amount that's coming in from the time, I guess, prior to you formally being an active part of the channel, or when, you know, like the stuff from before. So this amount is still going to come in every month. And there's also an expense of $5,000. What if we offset, rather than offsetting everything, which would happen in a partnership, which I guarantee, I assume you wouldn't want cash. What if we say that residual amount goes 100% towards repaying the $5,000, anything above and
Hey,
beyond that?
Which
Hey,
is
Chris.
which
And
is
once
exactly
it-
the structure that I told you. That's exactly what I
let me
offered.
finish. But once that is concluded, so that debt is paid technically, then everything at that point is a straight down the middle.
That's what I was
Hey,
thinking.
Chris.
So, and Jess, you're going to say, yeah,
I never disagreed with the money going there. That was never my contention.
I think we've got to.
There seems
Hang
to
on.
have been there
This
seems
is-
to there was contention there, but
Yeah,
okay.
there was no contention with that. There was no contention with that yesterday. There has never been any contention with that. What I had contention with was you saying that I did not have any right to have a say in where that money went, period. When I was already agreeing that that money should be going to pay off channel expenses, which, as you just stated, which I agree with, would include that $5,000. That has never been in contention.
I will tell you that there's completely not me.
I never caught that the first time. So that's so weird. Okay, so like when they like would had this whole started acting like partners or whatever with the channel, anyways, when she took such a dominant role in being involved with shit with the channel, she was walking into the channel with it having like this $5,000 debt. Steve is saying, the debt being that's what he was out with him having, his legal expenses and having to fight to get the channel back. So this channel is coming with a $5,000 debt, and he's saying, I was more than happy to split the funds or profits or whatever with you after this $5,000 was paid. And Chris, or the person there, even jumped in and said, well, okay, well, so what if would you agree to like everything that the channel brings in being put right towards this debt, this $5,000 debt, and then once that's paid, then everything gets split down the middle. And Cheshire jumps in and she says, I never had a problem with that. Yeah, that's fine. I had a problem with him telling me that I didn't have a right to have a problem with it or some shit like that, or I didn't have a say in it or whatever. Like that's what that really. Oh my God. So you need to be told that, okay, your word matters, even though you agree with me and it doesn't matter, but your word matters. But then that comes down to the whole argument being that she felt entitled to half of everything with the channel. You can agree with it, you can disagree with it. I don't care. But that's exactly what this came down to.
Meeting of the minds there, because it's not the conversation that she had with me.
I'm more than happy to share that if you would like, and you can come to your own conclusion.
Because obviously she was talking about the residuals, which means that it wasn't going to the expenses because I had offered. But when I had suggested, I said in December, the amount I want to make sure that she's paid fairly. That's the whole point of this, right? Fair compensation. I'm not trying to screw anybody over. That's never been anything that I would ever do. I said for that channel for December, it made $5 in revenue, which would be split. She said, no, it made $125, rounding up.
I did the math of the entirety.
Which means that it was from the previous month. And I said, well, no, that's going to be paid directly to me. That covers expenditures, and that's supposed to go back.
I'm curious about something because I hear this. Oh, Tuesday basically.
From my need of pain, as far
My understanding.
reimburse her for
One, inform me what was going on. Two, we're actually going to put that money back into the channel in the first place after you what was going on. Early, you to decide that cut and money without communicating. While saying I didn't have a right to that money, while saying I had no say to that money, while saying we weren't even 50-50 on any decision made, even in the agreement that you've now at this point agreed was the case. And why are you expecting me to take a cut out of if we decided that none of this money goes to back into the channel and it goes exactly 50-50? Why would it be reasonable for you to decide that I take a pay cut to pay for your expenses early, unilaterally making that decision when you are already going to be compensated for this money in the first place? And at this point, how am I supposed to trust you that you are going to, one, inform me what was going on?
That's
two,
right.
we're
Okay.
actually going to
Let me
put
get
that
back
money
to the beginning of that.
As an independent contractor,
And it's weird to me if you're trying to figure out like something that
no, yeah, I don't.
Oh my God.
Time. Time.
We agreed upon. She's like, no, I still get half of that. This is exactly how I remember that going. If I misunderstood, that's fine. But this is what I'm remembering. And then I was like, well, there's still an amount of expenditure here that she did not put a dime into, which means that I took all the liabilities, all the risk.
Okay.
Because under the impression that she would be paid for her services, she would be paid as an independent contractor, as she used the word employee, but it's not, but as an independent contractor, and I remain full control of the channel and for decision making. That was the agreement, period. That was the agreement. If we didn't have a meeting of the minds of that, I don't know what else to say on that. But it seems to be the case that she was not willing to give me $2,500 to find it.
Hang on a second, Steve.
I have
So,
a question about the clarification of that $5,000. Are you not receiving that money back due to your lawsuit from Kyle?
I don't know if I'm ever going to receive a dime from that.
That's not my question. Is that part of the judgment that you are supposed to receive that $5,000 back from Kyle?
Yes.
Then why would are you going to then take that $5,000 once you receive it to Kyle and put it back into the channel and or back to me if that's where we're deciding the money is going? Because it ought to be a 50-50 agreement as to where that money then goes, because that was the contention I was having.
Right now it's an expenditure. If I get money,
that's not what I'm asking.
I'm telling you, if I was to get money from him that paid
Chris,
off
please, that's not what I'm asking.
That always stumped me though. Like if she had helped pay for that $5,000 or whatever debt that the channel had, then yeah, she did. I have every right to it, but she didn't. So why would she? That's crazy. I don't know. Anyway.
I would make an agreement to pay you half. To pay that amount.
Mind you, too. I want to just point out here, like everything that's being discussed here, there's what she's wanting, what she feels like she was robbed of or shorted of, and compensation for was her, what she calls PR work for the channel, was her fighting with people on Twitter, fighting with people with her friend and on behalf of her friend on Twitter. And it was never discussed beforehand that this would be something that worthy of compensation. It was that and some thumbnails and artwork, and sure, I could see wanting to be compensated for that. And her efforts, her appearance, and her participation in some live streams. I get that. But also, her work on the channel directly had only been for a few months, because throughout the majority of this time, the channel wasn't being used by anyone because there was that court case going on. So we're only talking from the time Steve got the channel back until this went down. This was March 8th. So, and he got the channel back, I want to say December of 2021. So it's just like 4 months before that. So, yeah.
Not bad. I would be fine with that.
So
Right now,
again, though, I want to reiterate, this is why Chesh has been so focused on Steve and anyone who's friends with Steve and who's been speaking out on Steve's behalf or with Steve, right? And with anyone. This is why Cheshire has taken up friendships with those who are actively fighting with Steve to this day, right now, today. Okay, it all stems back to this, to a YouTube channel that she did not start, that she did not have any ownership over. She did not have a contract with. She didn't have an agreement with. But because she didn't get the channel, control of the channel, and instead the person who did start the channel had control of the channel, because that's how things played out. This is why she's doing what she's doing today. And I think it's only fair, it's only right that people be aware of this. That's all. And I wonder why it is she wasn't upfront and clear about this to begin with. I really do. Because and it's clear too, because she is obviously still quite angry about things, because throughout this course of time when she was defending Steve and everything, fighting with people on Twitter over Steve, she was routinely called certain names, and Sister Weiss was one of them. The names in which she uses against, the females who are friends with Steve today, which she calls them. Much of this stuff that she's hurling at us, she herself had to live through first. And I'm sure that wasn't easy. I'm sure it wasn't, because it's not easy now for me or for anyone else really. So I can understand that. But I would hope, though, at some point in time, she could acknowledge the fact that it wasn't easy for her then, and that she's then turning around and making it not easy for people now. And really, that's not the way to go about it, in my opinion, anyway. But yeah, so this is why I've had streams done about me from Cheshire where she's clearly not being honest or upfront about things that she's saying. Why, again, while she's doing the same thing to Down the Rabbit Hole news at bedtime, or Down the Rabbit Hole at bedtime news. I always get the two confused. The Good Rabbit. Why she's done streams on Nikki, Megan, Moderate, Renelle. You know, Renelle is someone who, when Unirockers came for Steve and myself and stuff, Renelle was oftentimes thrown in the mix there just because the three of us were on a few streams together, you know? So naturally, Chesh is going to follow his lead and come at them too. But yeah, that's why we're here. That's why I'm doing this stream now. This is why we're talking about this now today, is because Cheshire has not wanted to let this go. And I get that she's still angry with Steve. Whatever, I get it. I mean, it's been a while now. It's been what we're going on like 2 years now, but I get it. But I don't see the point in adding more casualties to this list because you're just big mad still over something that happened 2 years ago and that we had nothing to do with even. I mean, really, none of us had anything to do with anything. We're not the reason why there wasn't a contract in existence. We're not the reason why the two of you couldn't come to an agreement on anything. We're not the reason why you thought that your shit was worth $50,000. You know, that's not our fault. But by all means, because we can, I don't know, I guess, see the right side and things here being a little bit more on Steve's side, or not a little bit more, quite a bit more on Steve's side, then therefore it must be made into all of our faults. Is that it? Because that's what it feels like. Anyway, I'm going to check chat here. Anyone want me to continue going on with this? I will gladly do so. Oh, yeah, by all means, you don't have to take anything from the mod call in any way. That's not at all why I was showing this. You don't have to believe anything anyone says on there. I don't give a shit. I'm not even going to argue with you about that, okay? My point is I wanted to point out that this was Cheshire's experience. This was what Cheshire is still upset about today. This is why Cheshire is coming after Steve and Steve's friends, public friends here. That's my whole point, is that this is Cheshire's history with those involved here with Steve. That's my whole point in showing this. You can believe it, you can disbelieve it, you can whatever, I don't care. But it's indisputable that this is in fact her history with Steve here. And this was the reason why they've had their falling out and why they're still not friends to this day. Because they were like the best of friends before this. But now they're not, and they haven't been since. That's my whole point. That's it. So I don't understand that. You know what? If you want to ask me a specific question about something she said about me, then fine. You be specific. I'm not going to sit here and go into like the land of vagueness here or whatever with you. Okay. Cheshire is clearly very angry and very bitter over the things that went down with Steve and everything. And I get that. That's why, I mean, this whole thing started with her coming after Steve again. And then it spilled over to the rest of us because we kind of laughed about it. So yeah. Okay. I didn't say that that's why she has a problem with me. Although it wouldn't be videos that I showed you of this anyways. It would be her tweets from then all the way up to now. I mean, the things that are still being brought up, like this whole thing with the whole fucking prostitution ring, like, that happened way back then, and they're still harping about that. That might be a bit of an inclination there. And I am absolutely asserting this. I'm asserting this as my experience and my opinion that this is exactly why she's coming after many of the people here that she's been coming after, because we're simply friends with Steve and we're sticking up for Steve. Because none of this had anything to do with Cheshire, but she felt the need to jump right in fucking the deep end head first, Throughout this course in time, there's been quite a few things Steve's been involved in, which no one felt the need to jump into until now. So you can disagree with me. You're more than welcome to. Have at it. I disagree with you. And, it's my channel, and I don't have to prove a fucking thing to you. I am giving you all the things you need. You can take it. You can do whatever you want with it. I don't really give a shit. You can think I'm a liar. You can think I'm full of shit. Have at it. But I'm not. I'm just not. Anyway, moving on. But more importantly, I wanted to point out, though, here, this is her history with Steve. This is their history. And she didn't feel the need to make any of that known when she came at Steve and everyone else involved here for over the past, month or two? Actually, it's been a couple months now. It's been since like September, I think. Yeah, I think it's been since like September. Wonder why it is that she felt the need to get involved in shit with Steve way back then in September. Wonder what her motivation was. Huh. But nonetheless, she did. I'm sorry. What makes you think I want to be? Can you show me your proof or evidence that says that I want to be a part of the skeptical community? I don't really care to be a part of any community. This is my channel. I'm going to talk about anything I want to talk about. It will maybe align with certain communities at one point in time, but I don't consider myself a part of any community, really. So I may participate in communities, but it's not like my home. It's not my designated area. I'll go wherever the fuck I want. So. Why would I be planning on showing tweets? I'm not here to argue Cheshire's side on things or Steve's side. She is very clearly angry at Steve, at myself. I mean, that's been made very clear over the past few months because, again, I've never heard anyone talk about someone with such vitriol. Like, even people who talk about Katie Joy aren't that fucking angry when they do it. She is quite angry. And her focus on anyone who's like if you were to take Steve, in fact, I bet if Steve did one of those Twitter circle things, his circle would be everyone that Cheshire has gone after since September. I bet it would be. I bet it would be. Someone please prove me right or wrong on this. I would love to see it because, yeah, that's fucking strange, is it not? Not even all these people like talk about Katie Joy all that much, but the one thing we all have in common is Steve. That's so strange. Anyway, here's what I'm going to do because I don't really fucking feel like this anymore. I'm going to mute you, Vagri. You're more than welcome to come back, say tomorrow. But for now, I don't want to hear your shit because I don't really care. I don't have to care. Here we go. Okay. Anyway, now that's much more quieter in here. I don't know. It's a good question, though. How did she get wrapped up in that? I wonder. Oh, Peter Harrington, she didn't pay anything into the court case from what I understand. And I believe that was even her take on things, because I mean, maybe she donated to like Steve's GoFundMe or something like that. I don't know. I can't say one way or the other, but there's never been anything stated that she had a vested interest or, in his court endeavors anyway. Anyway, so yeah, I just think that should be understood. And I'm gonna let me grab a link to this here. So if anyone wants to watch the stream Tina and I did, it was on March 8th, 2022. I'm gonna put the link here in the chat. You're more than welcome to go and listen to the entire thing if you want. Whatever, that's up to you. But, and I will, here, let me see. I like suggest is that everyone ask themselves, like, why is it that she has focused all of her time and energy and attention on this? And she talks about these things and she's mocking and demeaning and disparagingly talking about the subject matter that many of our channels cover, which I don't care. I kind of agree with her there. I don't give a shit. I'm not here to change the world, let's say, okay? I don't care. But she does so as though like this is all so beneath her, and whatever. But if that's the case, if that's how she feels, then why is she so focused on this? I mean, because we're talking, she has to have been putting in like hours and hours a day just in the stuff that she has uploaded recently. I mean, that's a lot of time to be talking about things that you don't really care to talk about, unless you do in fact really care to talk about them. In which case, I wonder why that is. I mean, and why now all of a sudden? Why not like a year ago or something? It's just not that I wanted it a year ago, but it just seems weird, So I wonder why that is. Why now? More importantly, I think that should be known. That should be shared and revealed as she's talking about things like she understood, or she's talking about things as though she can be entrusted to listen to, because like she has some deep, profound understanding and shit. When she doesn't, she's biased. She's incredibly biased. And who knows, maybe I am too, but again, that's why I'm not going to sit here and have an argument over who was right and who was wrong way back then. More importantly, I really could not. I didn't care that much back then, and I sure as hell don't care now. I do not care. The only people who really care, I think, are Steve and Chesh, to be honest. Well, maybe like Manya or something or whatever. But that's about it. Nobody else cares. Like, nobody else gives a shit, for real. So don't make us have to live through this bickering still, because I'm over it. Really, I'm over it. But I mean, hey, no one can stop Cheshire from sounding like a bitter, bitter woman on YouTube. And by all means, she has every right to. Just hopefully she works through this at some point sometime soon for her own sake, if not everyone else's. So on that note, I'm going to wrap this up now. So you all have a good night. And I don't know when I'll be around next. I think I'm working. Next couple nights, I'm not going to be around, I know. So I don't think Friday night either. Maybe Saturday night. We'll see. Have a good night, guys. Bye.